Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Talking about the date of Lady's martyrdom, Lady Fatimatu Zahra's martyrdom, uh, this is one of the disputes among the scholars, and it is not clearly known. Unfortunately, there are lots of unknown things about Lady Fatimatu Zahra Salamullah alayha. We have a very well-known hadith mentioned in both Shia and Sunni sources that the Prophet said in the books like Musnad Ahmad bin Hanbal and Sunan Tirmidhi. It has been narrated that the Prophet said, "Inna Fatimata sayyidatu nisa'i ahli al-jannah, wa inna al-Hasan wal-Husayn sayyida shabab ahli al-jannah." The Prophet said that Lady Fatimatu Zahra Salamullah alayha is the lady of women of paradise, as Hassan and Hussein are the masters of the youth in heaven. So the greatest lady in heaven is Lady Fatimatu Zahra Salamullah alayha, according to this very well-known authentic hadith which has been mentioned by Shia and Sunni. So we don't have any woman like Lady Fatima in Islam. But there are lots of unknown things about this personality. And this is a very important question, that why? Why should all these things to be unknown by Muslims? Lady Fatima Zahra is the only daughter of the Prophet. As we said in the previous sessions, that the other daughters that the Prophet had, in fact, they are stepdaughters of the Prophet. They were daughters of Lady Khadija from her husbands before marrying the Prophet. So they were living with Khadija, and they came to the house of the Prophet with their mother, but they were not daughters of the Prophet. The only daughter that the Prophet had from Khadija is Lady Fatima Zahra Salamullah alayha. So she is the only daughter of the Prophet. She is the person that, beside Lady Fatima, the Prophet had only one son, and it was, he passed away when he was 3 years old from Maria Qibtiyya. So beside these two personalities, there is no children for the Prophet. So the only remaining one was Lady Fatima Zahra Salamullah alayha. And this is the only person, in fact, to remember and to remind people of the Prophet. The only person who is going to continue the lineage and the family of the Prophet. And she is the person that the Prophet emphasized a lot on his love towards her, and he suggested Muslims to respect this lady. For 6 months he came to their door and said, "This is my Ahlul Bayt, this is my household." The hadith that is narrated by Aisha in Sahih al-Bukhari, mentioning that the Prophet said, "Ahlul Bayt are Imam Ali, Imam al-Hasan al-Hussein, and Lady Fatima." So the only woman of the household of the Prophet is Fatima Zahra Salamullah alayha. Is the only person remaining from the Prophet. And this personality, Muslims had to respect her a lot. Muslims had to know a lot about her. But the question is that why all these ambiguous things about Lady? We don't know the date of her martyrdom. We don't know the place she was born. And we don't know the place that Lady is buried. All these things makes us to be more careful in order to find out the truth and the facts of the very first Islamic century, and what went around on that time, and what happened to the house of the prophets. We said that Lady Fatima Zahra Salamullah alayha, there are so many unknown things about the lady, and this poses the question to the minds that what and for what reason this might be there. And this is because of the ladies being wronged, unfortunately, by the Muslims, and she didn't behave by others the way that she deserved as the daughter of the Prophet and the only remaining person from the family of the Prophet. One of these ambiguous things is about the date of the lady's martyrdom. In the sources, we find two dates to be mentioned for the martyrdom of lady. One is 13th of Jamad al-Awwal in the lunar calendar, and the second one is 3rd of Jamad al-Thani in the lunar calendar. So if the first one to be accepted, then lady, her martyrdom is 75 days after the demise of the Prophet. And if we accept the second one, which is the 3rd of Jamad al-Thani, then it will be 95 days after the demise of the Prophet. And the reason for this dispute among the scholars is that what has been mentioned in the very early sources of Islam is that, at that time, when they wrote letters, they didn't use dots. In Arabic writing, they didn't use dots, and because dots were not used, the words happened to be similar to each other. For example, one of the words in the Quran, in جَاءَكُمْ فَاسِقٌ بِنَبَإٍ فَتَبَيَّنُوا, this فَتَبَيَّنُوا, there are some recitations as فَتَثَبَّتُوا. Why? The same meaning, but two different sort of recitation, تَبَيَّنُوا or تَثَبَّتُوا. And it is because they didn't use dots. And when dots were not used, the words could be similar to each other. They look the same. So the same writing could be recited with different recitation. And the same thing happens with the historical narration, that because the dots are not used, and it is only this writing of the word without dots, that it is likely to be خمس وتسعون or خمس وسبعون. If it is خمس وتسعون, means 95 days after the demise of the Prophet. If it is خمس وسبعون, then it is 75 days after the demise of the Prophet. So the sources say that Lady Fatima passed away and was martyred after the demise of the Prophet, خمسة وسبعون or خمس وتسعون. سبعون وتسعون, they look like each other. And because of this, there is this dispute among the scholars that whether it is 75 days after the demise of the Prophet or 95 days after the demise of the Prophet. Uh, but the scholars believe that according to different contexts which exist, uh, they come to believe that the second narration is more likely to be. So it is very likely to be 95 days after the demise of the Prophet. This is in Shia narrations, but in Sunni sources, they mention that lady passed away 6 months after the demise of the Prophet. And it seems that it has been mentioned 6 months somehow to, to make it after the Imam Ali's paying allegiance. And I mean, it is very likely that in this narration, political intentions have been involved a lot to mention it 6 months. But for Sunni, for Shia sources, the one which is very likely to be is 95 days after the demise of the Prophet.